Because I'm hearing like, yeah, they don't give us, if y'all don't give us what we want, like, we sitting out.
That's a possibility, for real.
Did you see that WNBA players, particularly Angel Reese, are now requesting million-dollar salaries? This is coming from a league that lost $50 million only a year ago, and they're even threatening to go on strike if they don't receive their salary.
But the addition of Caitlin Clark has given WNBA players an increased false sense of entitlement. Some would say, or some would call it, false bravado.
What does it take for a floundering league to demand such large pay hikes when these players have virtually no negotiating power outside of Caitlin Clark? The bargaining power becomes evident when Angel Reese's game barely manages to get 406,000 viewers, while Clark's preseason game attracts 1.3 million.
The WNBA players are going to strike if they have to. Oh boy. This is a league. I think that you're almost obligated when you mention the WNBA to say in the next sentence, comma, a league that has never turned a profit in its 30-year history.
This discrepancy in viewership highlights an important aspect of the WNBA's negotiating approach that is frequently ignored by conventional sports media. Let's look at what's actually taking place behind the scenes.
Yesterday, ESPN proved these psychic predictions of Uncle KC right when they reported that WNBA players were demanding million-dollar salaries. If they don't get their way, WNBA players will do what entitled people do best.
Did you see that these athletes are threatening to go on strike if they don't receive higher compensation? They contend that simply having a league to participate in should not make them feel lucky. The amount of entitlement is astounding. They want the money, but they have no evidence to support their claims. Although the majority of WNBA players are unable to sell tickets, draw crowds, or move products, they nonetheless act as though they have leverage and demand NBA-level compensation. It's similar to expecting a CEO's pay for subpar work. When making demands, you need to have negotiating leverage, and these players just lack it.
For starters, the WNBA can't afford million-dollar salaries. But the bigger problem is, in order to make demands, you gotta have leverage. In this case, you need people to care about your product. If you threaten to cancel the season, you need there to be outrage from your fan base. Problem for WNBA players, they don't have a fan base.
You'll soon understand why Angel Reese's demand for a larger salary seems more like wishful thinking if we examine the data. The WNBA recently signed a $260 million television contract that may sound remarkable, but it's hardly revolutionary in the grand picture of sports media, particularly considering that the NWSL landed a $240 million deal on their own without the NBA's support or a significant media campaign. Just sheer value in contrast. The WNBA received the NBA's complete support to even come close. It's a tenuous basis, at best, if that serves as the basis for asking NBA-level pay.
The WNBA did not negotiate a deal worth $260 million. That's just another generous donation from the NBA, their primary subsidizer. When Adam Silver was negotiating the NBA's broadcast rights, he included the WNBA as part of the NBA's package, meaning if the networks wanted the NBA, they also had to take the dump. I don't know how the WNBA's financials work because they refuse.
You may be asking yourself, but I heard the WNBA made $710 million in revenue last year. That sounds impressive until you realize that after splitting with the NBA and other partners, their actual share was only $298 million.
During his final years in the NBA, Michael Jordan was making around $30 million a year, which was a lot of money back in the mid to late 90s. But if you look at his impact on the league, hell, if you look at his economic impact on the entire country, Michael Jordan was severely underpaid. He should have been making $300 million a year. Even role players in the NBA, guys like Mikal Bridges, who are making $25 million a year.
The costs are outrageous. The seasonally cost of charter flights alone is $30 million, which is the same as several small professional sports organizations' whole yearly budget. This is prior to paying every player, covering medical expenses, renting venues, paying coaches, staff, and other expenses. The league makes a little portion of the revenue but has the same costs as bigger sports leagues.
You're looking at payroll expenses of 90 to 100 million a year. Well, that sounds great.
The WNBA lacks financial autonomy. Networks that broadcast NBA games are required to offer package agreements and WNBA games as well. Given that you are practically getting financial life support, how can you seek independence? These issues are made worse by the league's growth, which adds more passengers to a sinking ship. The cost of those charter flights increases with the number of teams. More employees and facilities without ensuring higher income or viewership.
Chartered flights are 25 million a year. With the additional teams, you're probably looking at 30 million a year. Health insurance, hotel accommodations, coaches, trainers, facilities. The expenses add up quickly. Then you have to take into account that the WNBA only receives 42% of their own revenue. NBA owns 42% of the league, while private investors own 16%. So whatever revenue the WNBA generates, they automatically lose 58% of it.
Because of this financial reality, player demands are especially troublesome. Demanding a rise from a business going through bankruptcy proceedings is analogous to asking for million-dollar contracts while the league is losing money.
Here is my biggest problem with these unreasonable demands. The WNBA does not own itself. So when players are negotiating for more money, they're negotiating for someone else's money. In this case, the NBA.
Professional athletics are businesses. In every sport and industry, compensation is directly correlated with revenue growth. The major problem still exists. Without spectators purchasing tickets and products, the league's finances run dry. Who is watching these games and contributing to its revenue? The majority of WNBA games have trouble drawing spectators. Venues are unable to sell pricey tickets to empty seats, and networks will not pay premium prices for unwatched material. Sponsors steer clear of collaborations when there is little return on investment.
According to Nika Agumike, in past negotiations, WNBA players have been forced to feel like they're fortunate to even have a league. Girl, those days are long gone. We're not fortunate to have a league. The league is fortunate to have us. Where else can you watch bearded beauties airball free throws and dive for those nasty loose balls?
Players lack leverage in these talks because when they seek higher salaries, it becomes unclear what value they are offering in exchange. Most of the time, an honest response is insufficient to support their salary expectations.
It's not hard to figure out why WNBA players want to eliminate revenue goals. They never hit them. The current CBA sets those targets based on revenue and attendance from the 2019 season. Last year, even with the increased attendance generated by Caitlin Clark, WNBA players still missed their revenue targets. Why? Because the rest of the league can't draw flies to a fresh turf.
Angel Reese is currently a major player who frequently discusses the need for further funding. However, let's first examine her viewership figures.
It's not hard to figure out why WNBA players want to eliminate revenue goals. They never hit them. The current CBA sets those targets based on revenue and attendance from the 2019 season. Last year, even with the increased attendance generated by Caitlin Clark, WNBA players still missed their revenue targets. Why? Because the rest of the league can't draw flies to a fresh turd.
The Angel Reese who attended the Met Gala is this one. The same Angel Reese who has millions of followers on social media. When you look at the facts, the disparity is astounding. This is the same Angel Reese that is constantly pleading with the league for more funding on ESPN.
I thought Angel Reese was the star of stars, the icon of icons. That's what the mainstream media keeps telling me. Headline at Forbes from last month. How Angel Reese and Asia Wilson are leading the WNBA's growth.
For weeks, the Chicago Sky vs. Dallas Wings game was highly anticipated. An unprecedented rookie bout between Paige Buers and Angel Reese. The media was unable to quit discussing it. ESPN broadcast specialized portions. The social media scene was booming. When Angel Reese on the floor, hardly anyone showed up for what was supposed to be the game to watch. Only 7,600 fans purchased tickets. Now contrast that with Caitlin Clark, who attracted 16,000 spectators for a single preseason game. It's a declaration. It feels like a tiny college campus. The other is a formal, full-scale event. Even fewer people attended some of Reese's games. Numbers as low as 3,500 supporters are more appropriate for a high school championship than the WNBA.
The mainstream media seems to be struggling with the difference between a star and a mainstream draw.
Ree, meanwhile, is still one of the most outspoken advocates for the WNBA, saying that players should not have to be thankful for the league's existence and that they should be paid more. However, neither actual views nor ticket purchases are resulting from her enormous Instagram following. This highlights the true issue with the WNBA's compensation requirements. They are not grounded in market realities. Millions of Instagram followers aren't always beneficial to the league. Sharing viral videos doesn't increase sales. Receiving invitations to upscale events doesn't increase ticket sales.
Halftime. By the end of the game, the only people watching on television were family and friends who weren't interested enough in using their free tickets to watch the game in person. But that should not affect Angel Reese. A star of this magnitude? She shouldn't need a strong lead-in to draw an audience.
Ultimately, an eye-catching Instagram post doesn't fill spaces. Premium ratings and sold-out games provide real leverage. Sports businesses rely on quantifiable measures rather than social media interaction. The harsh reality is that your business model is seriously flawed when ESPN uses you in their ads and talks about you all the time, but only 46,000 people watch.
This is your star? This is who you claim is elevating the dump?
It has nothing to do with skill. Reese has a terrific collegiate history and is obviously skilled, but in professional sports, your pay is determined by the money you contribute to. LeBron James earns more than bench players because of this. He attracts viewers and sells tickets and jerseys. Although the viewership figures indicate that Angel Reese isn't contributing superstar value, she still wants to be compensated like one. The calculations don't add up. When players begin to seek larger contracts, you cannot demand a pay that the market will not support. Since the numbers now don't support what they're requesting, the first question should be what value you're offering.
Product sucks, which is why they need controversy. They need drama to survive. No one talks about the actual basketball and the dump. How many of your friends last summer were talking about Angel Reese and her mythical streak of double-double?
Angel Reese may want more money, but hasn't earned it yet, as is evident when you compare her figures to Caitlin Clark's.
Headline at Sports Media Watch. Caitlin Clark attracts over 1 million viewers for WNBA preseason game. Let that sink in. Over 1 million viewers for a preseason game in the WNBA.
There were 1.3 million watchers of her preseason game. A preseason match that attracted more spectators than the first game of the previous year's WNBA Finals. How absurd is it that one rookie outdrew the championship series in a pointless exhibition game?
Before Caitlin Clark, this dump hadn't drawn 1 million viewers since...
This was the lowest amount the WNBA had seen since 2008. Imagine that after 15 years of trying to acquire viewers, one player unexpectedly appears and completely transforms the game. The Clark effect is what it is.
We used to have to combine monthly ratings for WNBA nationally televised games just to reach 1 million viewers. I remember a few years ago, ESPN went 5, maybe even 6 consecutive weeks during the regular season without broadcasting a WNBA game. Now they are begging to broadcast pretend basketball.
The league now wants you to think that everyone is attracting these viewers. It's not just Clark. They claim that the league as a whole is expanding, yet the data absolutely contradicts this. No one watches when other celebrities perform without Clark. More than 1 million people watch Clark play. Here, the maths isn't difficult.
The dump divers in the WNBA, they want their share of the credit for the elevation of the league. Sharing is caring. Yeah, the problem is there's only one player in this league that people actually care about, Caitlin Clark. And the proof was once again in the ratings.
There was an unheard of spike in attendance when Clark faced that Brazil team in preseason. That's good attendance for any basketball game, period. These figures are enough to get networks and sponsors to take notice. Clark's performances are drawing more viewers. That is the ability to genuinely support wage demands with actual data, which is what true leverage looks like.
Viewership also exceeded ratings for Game 1 of the WNBA Finals. How? How is that possible?
The WNBA endured years of appalling ratings. Games during the regular season were fortunate to draw 200,000 viewers. Most games were unable to even reach that low threshold. Clark then appears, and all of a sudden, over 1 million people are watching. This isn't just growth, though. It's a total change in the league's worth that has an immediate impact on broadcast talks. Previously hesitant networks are now avidly vying for Clark's games.
But any game involving Caitlin Clark, even if it's a scrimmage against a local YMCA team like the Atlanta Dreamers, ESPN, they want to broadcast it.
The amount of money that networks will pay for broadcast rights is directly impacted by TV viewership. It's actual money. All by himself, Clark is raising the league's value. She will make the next TV deal more valuable when it arises. Additionally, Clark's game ticket sales are booming. The resale values increased by 500% when she was drafted. People are spending 5 times as much to watch her perform. When Clark performed, the arenas were packed. For the majority of other games, they are half empty.
You could say the same about the NBA. There are a lot of stars in the NBA, Anthony Edwards, SGA, Giannis, but there's only a select few that have mainstream drawing power, and none of them have been able to match the drawing power of Michael Jordan.
Has there ever been a player with this level of drawing power in the WNBA? Not Candace Parker, not Sue Bird, not Diana Taurasi. None of the Hall of Famer's great players make the same impact as Clark at the moment. When we discuss players having leverage to demand more money, there is only one individual who can actually support such demands with actual numbers. Can one player really bear the burden of a league's future? Only one player is using hardcore viewership data to demonstrate her worth. The reason this matters is that in professional sports, compensation is determined by the value that each player contributes, and at the moment, one player contributes nearly all of the value. That is simply what the data indicates. It is not an opinion.
When you come across something this rare, you do everything in your power to maximize it. You don't share credit. You don't pretend that other people are responsible.
What do you suppose occurs, therefore, when one player attracts 1.3 million viewers and the others are unable to draw in even 10,000? There is a significant math issue with the WNBA. These requests for millions of dollars in salaries are unrealistic given that the majority of players cannot fill a high school gym. The league needs more in order to be financially viable. Caitlin Clark's attracting audience. If no one watches games, Instagram followers don't pay their bills. It's like to a basketball team when everyone is expected to be carried by one superstar. The formula stays the same. Star viewership is necessary for star money. How might the WNBA reorganize its model, in your opinion?